It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it. Well, that was good, wasn't it? Well, I don't know what happened there. Welcome along to Reading the Signs. It's Monday night with me, John Ryan, as always here. Got a fantastic show tonight. Got a great guest, Jen Bristow, who will be joining us in a moment or two. What have you up to this week? Let me know. If you're out there, if you can hear me, if you can see me, do drop us a comment in the box. And also do give us a little YouTube follow and all that sort of social media stuff that all you young people do. If you are listening to us in one of the depots around the country, hope you're enjoying your breakfast. Remember to eat sensibly, guys, because what you eat affects how you think, how you behave, and all the rest of it. What have you been up to all week then? Let me know. I've had a great week, actually. My home improvements are still continuing. Here I am. Ta-da! I'm in blue this week. There's no Danish shirts. I've been doing my DIY, still doing my building, done some more mental health workshops, some men's health workshops. And I've just started doing a project on suicide, which is kind of pretty heavy. But as per usual, someone will say, oh, look, we want a comedian to come in and make the lads have a think about why people take their lives, and he'll make it funny. So that's the level of it. I did my first long-distance gig. I went to Leeds, which is the furthest I've been in 2 years. I'll be interested to see what Jen's been doing. But yeah, it was very strange. 3.5 hour drive there, 3.5 hour drive back. Great show, but I was only actually in Leeds for an hour. And what fascinated me was the fact that it was like the war had ended. The place was banging. Hundreds and thousands of people everywhere in fancy dress, very lively, very, very vibrant. And it was just great. It was a really nice experience to see people out embracing life again, and life kind of getting a little bit more back towards normal, if such thing exists. So let's get to it. My guest tonight is Jen Bristow. Jen is one of the finest comics in the world, in my opinion. Always a favourite of mine. We more or less started out together, and it's been interesting watching her career soar to the heady heights, as well as her family increasing. So I think we'll just get to it. And if I could ask everyone, please, to give her a welcome, wherever you are, to the fabulous Jen Bristow. Ta-da!
John, hi. I'm so sorry. Did you hear my exchange a little bit earlier with my children? Because I didn't mute my microphone. Oh, that's good. No. Thank God.
But it's let me tell you, have no fears for it. I do a lot of online stuff, online training and workshops, and we had a little competition a few weeks back to the best thing anyone's seen. And a friend of mine was doing an online thing, and their child decided to go, look, mummy, I've used the potty all on my own. Came in with a potty that was flowing full of liquid and, shall we say, meat.
Oh,
tippets all over, mummy.
Beautiful. What a sight. I mean, it's bad enough seeing your own kids' deposits. I certainly don't want to see anyone else's. Well, I mean, this is it, isn't it, with doing stuff online, is that particularly when you've got young children, you are, at any moment, they could pop in. They're supposed to be in bed, John. They're supposed to be in bed, but seemingly no. That's
how old are they?
6.
Okay.
So I mean,
twins. You've got twins, haven't you?
Yeah, boys. And I'm trying to get them to do. We're trying to do slightly earlier nights because they went feral at the beginning of summer holidays because we went camping, and so they've been up since till past 10, 11, and I'm like, we've got to ratchet that down again. But you won't believe this, John. They've not bought into it at all. They're very much on a different time zone at the moment.
What you got, boys, girls, one of each?
Two little boys,
Brilliant.
two little balls of testosterone. That's what we've got.
Brilliant.
And energy that I can't match. It'd be weird if I could, to be fair. It would be weird if in fact, it would be, I would probably have to be institutionalized if I was institutionalized.
But you see, where I was brought up, that's why everyone had their babies when they were 12 and 13.
Well, so I mean, to be fair, you should have, you really, for your own mental health, it's better if you have them when you're younger. I mean, of course, physically, mentally, all of it. I missed that memo, and very, very much they arrived when I was in practically middle aged. So
my mate is 52. He's just become a dad. He's got 3 kids. The youngest of his 3 kids is 28.
What?
And he's become a dad again. I'm like, what? And when he was so proud when he was telling me, and all I could say to him was, "You fool! You just silly man. Your lovely cream suede couch and your glass table are going to be perfect for this child."
Absolutely could not. Just don't see. No, not in your 50s. No, God forbid. That sounds like.
Well, best of all though, his partner. She's only in her early 30s, so she's good for a few more.
Does she want more?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh God. Should have just stuck with the first lot, frankly.
You've got to get them all in that little tight group. I had 3 and 4 years and just got them all out there. Like, get your whistle, right? Nobody tells you this.
Oh, that must have been hard.
That's brilliant. Best days of my life. And you get your whistle, and they know something's happening.
That's what I'm missing.
Oh yeah, go get your whistle. Yeah, I ran like military boot camp. I tell you, my missus used to be fascinated with how she would go to work, and obviously I was doing stand up, so I'd go out in the evenings. How I managed to keep the house so clean, and it was dead easy. I would, we'd have breakfast, we'd get all dressed and that. They would watch their Teletubbies or whatever, and then while they were doing it, I'd make the house immaculate, and then just take them out for the whole day, and just burn them out.
That you've got to run them like dogs. You can't keep them in the house. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Husky theory is good as well. Make one your favourite, and the other one will work that little bit harder to win your approval.
That's dark, John. That's dark.
Mate, it's this old school parenting, John. I'm not one of your bright and trendy kind of give them couscous and quinoa, or whatever you call it.
We're always like, just tell me what your thoughts and feelings are, darling. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid, no one ever asked me anything. I don't remember my mum ever asking me my opinion on anything, but we're constantly asking our children. I mean, they're 6. We shouldn't be asking. What do they know? They don't know anything. No. Where do you think we should go on holiday? Oh, Teletubby.
Well, that's because you had 2 of them as well.
Yeah. I mean, but even so, I mean, Christ. There's definitely the way I parent my children is not the way I was parented. No, not at all.
Have you just got the one brother?
I've got 3 brothers.
3 brothers. I don't know why I would think you only got 1 brother. I guess because that's the great routine. I remember you.
Yeah, because one of my brothers appears in Stephen appears in one of my routines. But I've got 3 brothers. So and my mum had 4 kids in 5.5 years. So we're all very close together in age. So I don't really know. And my dad was very hands off. He wasn't hands on. He wasn't like, oh, I'll help you with the kids. He's like, I've worked. Yeah, that's your job. So I don't really know how my mum did it, to be honest. Because with 2, I'm like, I'm on my knees here. So with 4, that's just.
It's just people who have just 1 child I feel sorry for, because that child thinks they're the 3rd parent. And I remember doing history O-level, as it was then. And the one thing stuck in my mind was about how Britain's foreign policy throughout history was, in a world of 3, you must always be in the majority of 2. And any family I knew that had an only child, it would pretty soon be the child and the mum, or the child and the dad. But the child always managed to get in there.
Yeah. No, I can't be doing with that. No. No, I'm not having them. I'm not having them like flipping second get. No, I'm having it. I'll start going old school. That's for sure.
That's how you got to do. Do they look similar? Can you tell them apart? Is it?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, they look nothing like each other.
Oh, that's all right.
Absolutely. I mean, it was IVF, so it was two. I mean, I don't know if they're still doing this, but it was 2 separate embryos, and
sort of buy one get one free kind of thing.
It was a very much buy one get one free situation. And let me tell you, when we found out we had twins, first of all, that was shock, horror. how are we going to cope with this? And then immediately we're like, oh, that saved us quite a bit of money, actually. So it was like, oh, bargain. But yeah, they don't look anything like each other. But they're very close and they're good mates, and I really want to foster that. I want
Allies. Are they allies?
They are when it suits them, and they are very much got into that. I don't know if your kids did it when they were young, but they go, no, he did this thing. He said such and such. He hit me and did and it's like the telling tales bit. We're full whack into that. So, and I'm over it already.
My mum had this great saying, I don't want justice, I just want quiet.
I'm going to use that. I genuinely, that's how I feel. I have on more than one occasion said, one of them said, I've been hit in the face with a spoon. I'm like, I don't care. Just go and sort it out. And just you two sort it out. Okay. Oh my God.
Brilliant. We've got Jeff Stevenson just to come on to say hello. So a big hi to Jeff. He's out on the cruises. Let us know how the ship is there, Jeff. Back working. What always fascinated me though, when people have twins, they bring with them their own uniqueness, right? I've got two really good mates who are identical twins. Well, they were until one of them stopped drinking, and now he's about 3 stone lighter.
Oh right,
Yeah.
okay.
And I could never tell them apart if they didn't open their mouths. But now, I always go, "Oh, he's slim." I know from so slim and chunky. So they finally. I used to call them Roy 1 and Roy 2.
You want them to be like the way I've got a friend, she's got twins, and I can often tell them apart, but every now and again I get it wrong. But to begin with, before I had no clue, because they are identical twins, I would have to hear her call one of their names and go, right, he's got the yellow jumper and he's got the green jumper, and that's the only way I could tell them apart. Is by. But she was like, I don't understand how you can't tell them apart. I can. They're so different, and I was like, they're not.
It's a mother's love. It's a mother's love, Jen.
Very much the same.
Special bond I have with my children. Because I jokingly used to say to the mum, I would cut one of them when they was a kid, just give one of them a scar just to make it easier. But she did used to paint the toe, and they're Italian, so they would paint one of them always had his toenail painted.
Well, I mean, this is constantly wearing open-toed shoes. I can see a flaw in that plan.
Yeah.
Like, son, take your shoes off.
Well, then
also,
of course,
I bet they get to a point where they're like, Mum thinks that if I've got the blue toe that I'm new, and then I bet they did that at some point. They've got to. I mean, I would have.
So, just for people who are just joining us or listening on SoundCloud, I am joined by writer, comedian, actor, podcaster, Jen Brister. If you guys are out there, so Jen, this show is sponsored by a company called WJ, and the guys like to listen to it in their vans and when they're in their depots, as well as goes on worldwide on Deluxe Radio Network and Men's Radio Station. So tell us, Jen, what made you get into stand-up comedy? Why? What were you doing before you did stand-up?
Well, I mean, God, what didn't I do? I mean, I think I was very much. I did a degree in theatre, and I quickly realised that I didn't want to do that because I was wholly reliant on too many other people to get anything done. Do you know what I mean? Like if I wanted to, because I think I always knew I wanted to perform in some way, some capacity or another, and if you go into something like theatre, then you're reliant on being cast for a start, getting the part. Then you've also got you've got to deal with the other actors, and there's the director. I mean, there's so many other things in place that could make whatever you're in shit, or just not be very good. And so I just thought, well, the only way that I think or that I've seen that I can perform and have some sort of autonomy and some control over the content and what I'm doing and how often I do it was stand up. And I did a course at university that covered comedy, where at the end I did a set, which must have been appalling. At the time I thought I was flipping, Bill Burr, but I wouldn't have been Bill Burr, would have been Bill Hicks. But anyway, my point is I thought I was really good, but I'm sure I was terrible. But that gave me the bug, and then I sort of started. I heard that you could do these open mic gigs, and I started to do a few of those, and then I kind of bottled it. sort of bottled it for 2 years, and I didn't really do very much because my stage fright was so intense.
Wow.
I had such intense stage fright that I just couldn't do it. And then after a couple of years, I had another go. And then I wasn't terrible at it. I'd either do really well or I would sink like a stone. There didn't seem to be any middle ground in anything
What year
that
was
I was
this?
doing. Probably 1999, 2000. That's about when you and I were gigging together, wasn't it?
Yeah. About 99. I kind of started.
Yeah.
Halfway through 99.
Yeah, same. So when I would do these open mic gigs, it was, I could never tell how it was going to go, and I didn't seem to be able to control it, so I never knew how to be good. It was like, I guess I could be rubbish tonight, or I had no control over what I was doing on stage. So it did take me a long time before I got any kind of to grips with what I was doing, so that I could have some control over whether or not the gig went well or badly. But it took me a while to learn how to do that. And then once I kind of did that, then, it's just momentum, isn't it, with stand up?
Yeah.
And you get to a point, don't you, where people go, how can you continue if you doesn't, because obviously I died a lot. People were like, how can you do that? How can you go back up on stage and after someone's thrown a beer can at your head? To this day, which did happen. Do you remember? Do you remember that gig in Hammersmith? What was it called? I think Joss ran it.
Cosmic. Was it Cosmic?
Cosmic Comedy.
Yeah.
Cosmic Comedy at the Hammersmith Palais. Was it Hammersmith
Something like
Palais?
that. Yeah, it was a huge high stage, wasn't it? Fulham Palace Road. Yeah.
Huge high stage, huge ceilings.
Yeah.
So I did a gig there, and it was like a competition, but I didn't know it was a competition when I turned up. I thought it was just a gig, and then it ended up being one of these sort of open mic competitions. And so I'd gone from being like fairly nervous to being absolutely ridiculously, just lost it completely. And so I went on stage, and all the blood drained from my face, and I died. And it went so badly that someone threw a half-empty can of lager at me, and it hit me on the head. And then, rather than the audience feeling sorry for me, that was a catalyst for them to start booing me, because then it was like a free fall, because they hadn't been enjoying what I was doing up until that point. And so when the can hit my head, they were like, oh, well, this is fair game. Let's go for it. And then that was it. I was annihilated. And I still remember that to this day. So yeah, that was, oh my God, that must have been about that time. So it's sort of, I think maybe even earlier, maybe 98. But I mean, it was an absolute disaster. Yeah. I had a few of those.
But you just kept getting up there. Just kept getting up.
Yeah, but and I'm sure you can relate to this. But isn't it because there's it's a compulsion? Like it. You might say to yourself, "Oh, I'm not going to do that again. I'm just not. I can't put myself through that again." And then fast forward a week, and you're like, "Well, I'm doing it again." And I cannot. If someone asks me to explain that to them and go, "But why?" I'm like, I don't know why, but I just have this compulsion to perform and to get up and do it, irrespective of whether the gig goes well or whether the gig goes badly. It seems to be irrelevant as to whether or not I'll do it again, because I will. So yeah, it's weird.
It was strange because for me, I've mentioned this a few times on the show. I never wanted to be a stand-up, so I never invested in it in that way. I needed it as a means to an end.
But you were so good, and also you seem to move quite quickly up the ladder. Like you moved a lot quicker than I did. So you whether or not you wanted it or you didn't want it, and maybe it's because you cared less, or maybe because you were much more relaxed on stage, because you always, when you still are, but you always, and used to compare a lot. I'm telling you your career, John. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that there. I remember that. I was there.
In case you don't remember. But I just remember you were always very relaxed, and you were always a very calm presence, which is really necessary, particularly when we started, and we're obviously open micers, and there's nobody calm. Everybody's frantic and scared, and it's so much nervous energy that we really needed that, and it was really great that you had that. And then you just seemed to just go, poof, and then I was still sort of paddling around in the half on the open mic circuit, half getting 10s and 15s, but not doing 20s. And boof, you were gone. And I don't think I saw you again on the circuit for another 3 or 4 or 5 years, because that's how much longer it took me, with all my lack of confidence and with all the
I think
gremlins I had on my shoulder.
I always thought you were great. I always liked working with you, and I remember once almost getting into a fight because of you.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
At a competition.
What did I do? What did I do?
Because one of the judges was very dismissive and very rude, and I made him go and apologise to you, and then he did.
Oh.
And then he said to me, after he apologised to you, he came back over to me with two blokes and stood behind him and said, "You're never going to work for the BBC." And I said, "I don't want to work for the BBC, mate." He goes, "Yeah, well, you trust me, you're never going to." I went, "Well, I don't want to." And we had this kind of little playground spat. We went, "We're not going to." And I went, "Don't care." He goes, "You don't care now, but you will." I went, "I never will." "Yes, you will." I went, "I won't."
And do you know what the funny thing is with these BBC producers is that they move on and they go and do something else and da da da. And the very idea that he would have any power to be even saying something like that is ludicrous. But
yeah,
just shows what a petty idiot he was. But I found that a lot of people were very dismissive of me at the beginning. Not comedians, actually. I've always had really good support, and often that's the only reason I've continued is because of other comics who've said, just don't listen to them, you keep going. It's just a matter of time, just keep knocking on the door and it will open. And it did. But there were times where I feel like people in the industry were, quite cruel, quite unkind, and said some really pretty awful things to me over the years, which I think fed into that idea that I wasn't good enough, or I didn't belong, or I didn't deserve it, or whatever it was. But actually, with hindsight now, I just think firstly, I don't understand what their motivation was, but secondly, I don't even know why I would have given what they said a second thought. Now, if someone said that to me now, I'd be just like, "What are you talking about? I don't care."
You've got twins now. There's no insult. There's no insult you can be given. What's really strange, well, for me, because I came from a background of, I worked in community care. I was very much a strong believer in like diversity and inclusion, but not from a trendy learn it at college sort of way, just because of the friends I had and the world I came from. So I found it very strange to suddenly be amongst these predominantly white heterosexual men who couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag, who were gobby little brats who wielded power that was completely uninfluenced by the lack of physical prowess. And because I wasn't from that sort of background, where I was from, if I called you something rude, I might have to punch you to back it up. But I remember once being in a dressing room watching these guys really abusing each other and thinking, "Are you going to hit him?" And they were like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay." And so I could see how hard it was for people of color, for the women on the circuit as well, but also for any men who were vulnerable. And and that kind of bullying culture, I still think it's quite prevalent, but maybe because we don't mix in those circles, we don't see it so much. And I was just very aware of the fact that, I wouldn't want you not to feel safe or comfortable around me, or anyone else for that matter. So I'll actively try not to make you uncomfortable. But I can remember once sitting in a green room at the Glee Club, and I just was reading the Daily Mail, and two acts came in and started berating me for reading the Daily Mail, and I said, and he was like, "Why are you reading that?" And I said, "Well, so I'd have to talk to you. I would rather read this than have a conversation." And then he walked out, and the other one said to me, "God, you're really aggressive." I went, "No, I'm just why would it bother him what I'm reading or not reading?"
Also, you were sat in the green room reading, and then two people come in and berate you. Who's being aggressive? Who's the aggressive one in that situation? I tell you what, I don't get it now, obviously, because as you and I both know, and I'm sure this is in most industries, but it's very, very prevalent and obvious in comedy, is that there is there's status within comedy. And you have to know your place in a green room. That is very important for some comedians. It's not important. I need to make it very clear that it is not important to me. I don't have
Yeah.
those insecurities, and I've never have. But it is important for some comedians that when you step into a green room, that they let you know where you sit in the
Yep.
pecking order. And what I found interesting was there were certain comedians who I'd come up with, we'd started about the same time, but they had, like, pretty much everybody at that time just were leagues ahead of me, because I just couldn't get to that next step, because I don't even know why. If I had therapy, maybe we'd figure it out. And then I would be in the green room. So say at the Comedy Store, a Manchester Comedy Store is this stays in my mind. And this one comedian was doing a 20-minute set, and I was doing a 10-minute set. And I know this person for years, because we'd been on the open mic circuit together, and we'd been friends, and we'd hung out, we'd had drinks, and he blanked me like he'd never seen me before. And I said, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And he just was like literally did a 180 turn with his back to me, and then started talking to the other two comedians who looked very uncomfortable, and who went, "Oh, Jen, come and join us and have a drink." And I was like, "No, do you know what? It's fine. I'm not." And knowing then that also when you're doing a 10-minute at the store, it's not a gig, it's an audition, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're basically auditioning to get paid work. And I found that really, I don't know. I just found it really, it messed with my head before the gig in a way, because a lot of stand-up comedy isn't just about how funny you are. Of course it is, but mentally, where are you before you step onto the stage?
Yeah.
And if someone gets inside your head and undermines you, and undermines your confidence, or makes you feel less than, or makes you feel less worthy, or that you shouldn't be there, or that you're nothing, which is how he made me feel. Of course it will affect whatever performance you deliver that evening, because you suddenly feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe I'm not good enough. I'm clearly not good enough. He's doing 20s. I'm not. I'm doing 10s. Yeah, I mean, that sort of stuff used to, and I to this day, I know every single comedian that was kind to me in a green room, and I remember every single comedian that.
Have you got a little black book? Have you got a little diary?
Oh, I don't even need it. It's engraved. It's literally burnt into my frontal lobe. So
that's called your mummery.
It's
your mummery.
Just for a minute, I was going, "Oh, is that really what it's called?"
It's called your mummery. Yeah, I've got daddery, and it's a mummery. I just think that it's interesting, and we will get onto the kind of gendery stuff of that in a moment or two. Thanks to Veronica Curran, who's suggesting that when menopause comes and teenagers together, it's a blast.
Oh, I've got the menopause. Oh, let's talk about that, Veronica. I'm full. I'm HRT'd up to my eyeballs, my love. Yeah.
Good girl.
So not even teenagers. Would you excuse me for one moment? I don't know if you can hear any knocking, but that is my children. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, it's okay. Now on Reading the Science, Jen Brister gives parenting advice. It's really interesting. So just as a quick reminder again, thanks if you're just joining me. I have Jen Brister, who's one of my favourite people, let alone comedians here. Jen has just had to leave the room to slap some kids. Old school style. No, listen, that's okay. It's just life, and I'm very much in favour of if you don't want to do something, just don't do it. One of my favourite. He's not everyone's favourite comedian, but Mark Walker. Never remember Mark Walker.
I do. He
used to fascinate me. I mean, I know the guy so well that when he's had enough of a conversation, he will literally, and he just will leave. He doesn't even go, "I'm going there." Just. So I'm a great believer that if something happens, go deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was nothing I could do. They were hammering on the door. Basically, like, in a nutshell, my partner isn't here. I'm alone in the house with my children, and I hadn't thought it through. I thought they would just go to sleep because I'm deluded, and that is not the case. So apologies, everybody.
Would you not have Calpol?
Yeah, double post it.
Just gonna for the benefit of the listeners, mensradiostation.com does not endorse the use of Calpol as
any other
or any other stuff. Well, I don't know about that. My mum used to say to me when my son wouldn't sleep, "Give him some whiskey." I'm like, "I don't want to give him whiskey if you're an alcoholic." Well, it didn't do you and your...
God, I know.
Didn't do you and the rest of the family any harm. I'm from a family of alcoholics. This is probably where it starts.
Yeah, if you give them whiskey when they're 6, that can't be a good start, really.
Shocking.
I think I'll swear that.
So can we just then? So we'll just tackle this very good question from Veronica. Do you feel stand up for women is more difficult?
Well, I mean, in terms of creating content and being a stand-up comedian and being funny, no. In terms of making your way on the circuit, certainly in the 90s and in the noughties, which was when I was coming up, yes. And I think people would go, that's not true. And I would say, in my personal experience, and I can't speak for anyone else, I think it was much harder, and I was given a lot less rope, and I was given a lot less support, and it was very obvious to me very early on that however good I was, it was never going to be good enough, and that whatever I did, I needed to be not just good, but to try to be the best on the bill to justify my slot on that, and because I would be the only woman on the bill. I wouldn't be on with other women. It's always just me. And so to get that slot, to have that slot taken away from a man, I would have to be over and above. And so that's what I worked at. And that's what I worked really hard to do. And now whether, people would say, yeah, might disagree as to whether or not I achieved that. But that was always my goal, was to be the funniest person on the bill, and not in a competitive way, in a way that I was like, I need to be the best, but in a way that I was like, I have to justify my place here on this bill. So I need to make sure I never took any gig for granted. I was never one of those people that was like, oh, I'll just turn up, see how it goes. I worked really hard to make sure that my 20s were bulletproof, because I wanted to I needed to make a living, and I wanted to get asked back. Now, once clubs start to trust you, irrespective of your gender, then once you've established yourself as a comedian, then it's much more meritocratic. I do believe that, and I think that you are judged on by merit. But to get there, yes,
yeah. See, I've got my own theory, right? Which obviously I now have to share. So I've got 2 boys and a girl, and my boys were very quiet kids, very quiet. If they've not got anything to say, they won't speak, right? But if they want to talk, they're very chatty, and they're very intelligent, very engaging. But they won't join in. You start talking to them about Spanish food, they ain't got a clue, so they won't have an opinion. My daughter is just a little me. She's just full of mischief, full of beans. When she was a child, you would always know what she was doing, because she would give you a running commentary on her life. I'm going upstairs, on the top of the stairs, going to the bathroom. When we come to parents' evening, they would always say she's very chatty, and maybe we need to just calm her down a little bit. And there was this one teacher who once said to me, yeah, she's very, very chatty, and that could affect her when she's older. And I said, but you know what? I appreciate the fact that you're going to allow her to be confident enough to express herself however she sees fit. And I'm interested that when you taught my son 2 years ago, you never commented on how quiet he was. Why do girls have to be quiet and boys have to be noisy? And I pretty quickly realized that there was a different set of rules for the girls than there was for the boys. Boys were encouraged this banter, this kind of, alpha male stuff. Whereas girls, they didn't tend to be like one witty girl full of humor. They'd be like, she was always in a group with like 12, always. And so that adversarial nature that we have in comedy, I don't know that that's a natural part of girls' child development for most girls.
Yeah, that might be it. I think I definitely at school. I mean, I'm very loud. I've just got a loud voice. I've got a Spanish mum, and everyone's loud in my family. So I was always loud at school, and I always got told off. I was always told to be quiet, or I was in detention for being too loud or for talking too much, whatever. So I was told very early on as a child that I didn't have the right to speak. That I didn't have that authority. And I think that boys from a young age are told that they have that authority, that people will listen to them if they talk. And I think that is exactly what stand-up is having the confidence to hold court, which is what you're doing. You are demanding, actually, a room full of people, however many people's in the room, 10 people, 100, 400 people, to listen to you. Now, we're not used to that from women. Men, sure, of course, we stop and listen to what men are saying. The second a woman starts talking, it's like, oh, here we go. What's she wittering on about? Also, I think there's something to do with the men. Obviously, the timbre of a man's voice is lower, and apparently that is easier to hear, or it's more hourly, more. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Is better.
Yeah.
So for women, we are told that if we're going to do any sort of public speaking, we should lower our voices so that it matches how people are used to hearing a man, and that a woman's high voice is too screechy. So there's loads of things that we're taught, and even if you're not told that at school, it's societally, and it's there. It's subliminal. You're picking up on these messages of what you can and can't do, what you should and shouldn't say. And the second you walk on stage as a woman, you are immediately met by disappointment. So, I was very used to walking on stage and feeling the audience just like withdraw from me, go, no, whatever this is, I don't want it. So I learned very early on that if I was going to survive that 20-minute set, that I had to be funny within the first 30 seconds. I couldn't take my time and go, well, hi, how are you? How's everything? I just have to go in with a gag. Now I take my time a bit more because I've got a lot more confidence, and I know the joke's coming and I know it's going to land, and I'm not worried. But at the time I was like, I've got to get a joke out at the top so that they relax and that I can get through this gig. Now, obviously in the last 15 years, things have changed. There's a lot more women doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
We've got a whole new generation of people who are expecting to see women on stage and are actually disappointed if they don't see a woman on stage. That wasn't the case. Even women didn't want to see women talk. So, things have moved on and progressed, and they have changed. But I think what you said about your children is spot on, John. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have made that connection at all, and still don't.
And it's funny. Well, my partner, Natasha, she's hilarious, and she will hold court. We go out for dinner. I'll quietly sit there and just laugh my socks off.
I don't believe it. Really?
I would just, she's hilarious. But there have been occasions, especially around male comics, where they've gone like, does that not bother you that she's so loud? I'm like, why would it bother me? She can hold her own, and she'll get into it with like men and stand her ground, hold her ground, just because she's got long blonde hair and pink fingernails. Do not think you're going to get away from like make some comment and she's not going to take up the gauntlet. And when I used to do, especially like the CSE tours where we go away for like a week.
Oh, they must have been tough.
Yeah, but then if she was with me, we'd invariably get into it with a male comic who'd have some, because they're so testosterone full, they would, and she would just bitch slap them completely. In fact, I remember once a guy who I'll tell you all afterwards saying to me, John, you need to come into the bar. Tasha's on the table dancing with two squaddies. I'm like, okay. What is she like going to fall? He said, no, but she's disrespecting you. I said, how? She's dancing with two squaddies. I said, yeah, but I'm out here chatting to two squaddies. He went, yeah, but that's your woman, and she's flirting with them. I'm like, well then let her flirt. Good luck. If she's happy, they're happy. What's the problem? Anyway, he made the mistake of saying to her, I think you should get off the table because it's not really ladylike. And she said, yeah, I think you're right, and proceeded then to dance on the chair instead. But he couldn't get his head around it. And he actually said to me, I wouldn't put up with that from a girl. I'm like, well, that's probably why you're single, mate.
I was going to say.
Yeah, we don't have that. If the bin needs to go out, well, that's not my job. That's the house job. This whole thing about, and I've tried to raise my kids in that same way so that all three of them can cook and change a fuse and paint a wall.
I mean, I think children at school, I'm amazed at what we don't teach our kids. Like, I mean, I would have loved someone to explain to me what a tax return is. I mean, I would have loved someone to explain to me, how to, I don't know. There's loads of things when you go out into the world where you think it would be really useful to get a little bit of a clue of this before.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just there's so many things that you're left and you've just got to find your way. But we don't really prepare children for the world. We just prepare them to be bored so that when they go to work, they're used to being bored. I mean, that feels like what we're doing. But anyway.
Yeah. And we just pick out the good ones, whatever. But it is very, very interesting. And then as you get into the comedy world, you come up against this kind of rigid walls where you can't go around them unless you look or sound a certain way. You're not going to get on. And my thing was always to do the comedy just so that I could get that performing CV, which would mean that my writing will get looked at and my other projects that I wanted to do would get looked at. So I never got caught up in that whole race to the top that everybody else has done. I'll be honest with you, when I remember a manager saying, "Look, we get you an audition for Live at the Apollo." And I said, "Why would I want to do that?" Well, because then you can. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. What I want you to do is get me an audition in front of NHS commissioners so that I can get funding for projects I want to do. So that when we saw you on Live at the Apollo, I kid you not, we recorded it and we had a little glass of wine and watched it and thought, "You, Kerry Godliman," I'm like, "This is fantastic, fantastic."
Oh, thanks, John.
Rather than the same 6 people all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think they had got to a point where they literally had run out of people. But I worked really hard to get that audition, and I hounded the producer and a friend of mine. Do you remember Francesca Martinez?
Very well, yeah.
Okay, so Francesca's agent had said to me years ago, "You should be on Live at the Apollo," and I was like, "Well, good luck with that, because that ain't never going to happen." And she said, "No, I think it will, and I'm going to talk to Anthony Caveney, who's the producer, and I'm going to see if I can get you on it." And I was like, "Yep, all right. Well, good luck with that." And then she proceeded to sort of, email him sporadically and say, can you come and see Jet? She'd say to me, "Have you got any dates in London?" I'd send her the dates. And then I started to contact him. So then I was contacting him as well. And then I got an agent, because I hadn't had an agent for 5 years. And then she did it. And it was sort of like a pincer movement where we were all contacting him. I think he just got so fed up of these women badgering him that he did eventually come to see me. And then a year later, I got it. I got the Apollo. But I think he came to see me 2 or 3 times before he made a decision. Yeah, that did change everything in lots of ways about how people perceive me as a comedian and how people. But I'd been working, as a full-time stand-up comedian for over 10 years at that point, 12 years. So where I was making a decent living, not just sort of bobbing about, fingers crossed, hope I can get through this year. So I think people were happy to see that I got it, because a lot of the time with Live at the Apollo, people get the ache, don't they? If they see someone getting it and they've only been going a couple of years, it kind of just rubs people up the wrong way. But when people had seen me, that I've been going for nearly 20 years, 12 years professionally, people were like, "Okay, we'll let Brista have that, because we've seen her working.
She's paid her
dues. Yeah, because that's it, really." And I think that's what why people were okay that I had it, because a lot of the time it's like, "I can't believe that person got it." Because
it's interesting because you do a hilarious podcast, right, with 2 very, very funny comics.
Oh,
one
Maureen,
of them, Maureen, right? Now, Maureen Younger, she'll tell you this herself. I was recommending her to people. I only worked with her once. I was recommending her to people all over Europe and all around the country, because not only is she hilarious, right? She can hold her own. She speaks 12 languages. She's just like a Google.
Yeah.
Right. And a couple of times I recommended her to people. They go, "But where does she work?" I said, "She'll work anywhere." I've done urban black gigs with her, and she'll smash the roof off.
Honestly, she is literally the only comedian I know that does the urban circuit. She does the gay circuit, John. She's not gay. She does the gay circuit. She does the mainstream circuit. She does gigs in German. She does gigs in French. I mean, the woman is prolific. I don't know.
Something wrong with her, mate. That's what I reckon. She's a wrong one. Something not right there. She's got secrets. But why has she not been on Live at the Apollo? Why is she not on 8 out of 10?
Well, but that's ageism. I mean, that's ageism. I mean, I said it was hard for me, but because Maureen is older than me, it would be even harder. They just can't conceive of a woman in her 50s, although, as Maureen would say, 38. Being
38 rising 30s.
38 rising, yep. Being on television, which is such a shame, because actually demographically, anyone knows that does any of those sort of stats, that actually most of the people watching terrestrial television, I don't mean Netflix or Amazon
Yeah.
or YouTube or whatever it is, but actually just sitting down and watching whatever's on 1 to 5, tend to be women between the ages of like 35 and 60. Okay,
Yeah.
that's that
Yeah.
demographic. Maybe a slightly older, maybe 40 and 60. That most of people watching television are women of that age. They would love to see on Live at the
Yeah.
Apollo a woman in her 50s speaking to them, you know, because about things that they relate to, or that you know, you don't often see that sort of experience being reflected back at you. And I think that that's what television is really struggles with that. It's predominantly heteronormative, it's predominantly white, it's
Yeah.
predominantly able, you know, ableist. We don't see enough people with disabilities on television, do we? I mean, it's
no, I agree. I agree.
it's you know, and that the norm is you're white, you're able-bodied, you're heterosexual, and you're a man. And I know everyone wants to say that, oh, it's so hard to be a white straight man these days, but actually, it's actually still
this is the
okay.
thing, right? And I have this conversation fairly regularly. I'm more than happy to forego TV opportunities or career opportunities if we get a fairer society, because that's something I believe in. But I'm constantly amazed by my peers who claim to have the same beliefs, but not me. Do you know? And you want to go, hang about.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, like in order to have something that really truly represents what's happening in our society and who lives in our country, is we have to have more people of color being represented. We have to have more people of different abilities. I mean, I'm talking about, not everybody has to be able-bodied, not everybody has to be heterosexual, but it really is a one in, one out sort of situation with anybody that doesn't meet that what is considered the norm. And so, you know, I was speaking to Susie Ruffle the other day, and you know, but listen, I need to prefix this by saying that I am aware that both Susie and I, we're doing fine. Our careers are doing fine. But we are also acutely aware that if we were men, we would be doing a hell of a lot better, because you can only ever have one lesbian on television at the time. You can't have, you know, like Susie and I.
You got to think that through there. You can only have one at a time. How does that work? There are occasions when you might want two.
Yeah, but not on television.
Skip over that bit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. It's things are changing, and it is great to see that things are changing. But a lot more needs to be done, and in doing that, it is unfortunately going to rub a lot of people up the wrong way.
But you know, I'll be really honest. As much as I'm in favour of equality and diversity and inclusion, my one little area that I really struggled with was football commentators and presenters. Right?
Oh, what, as women?
Really struggled with that. I'm not going to lie.
John, I'm really surprised.
I did. It was just the one area that I really did think, how are they going to break this glass ceiling? How are they going to come in? Because football is been a male kind of stronghold for so long that it reinforces all the negative factors of being a man, right? And I thought, how are they going to crack this? You know, how are they going to get in? Because no one single, I think if comedy's hard for women, becoming a football commentator or a panel expert, I'm like, how are they going to do it? You know, like women's football in the 40s and 30s used to have 60, 70,000 turning up at games. And all around the country and all around the world, people go and watch women's football, right? But you'd never see anything like it on until Gabby Yorath really came along.
Yeah.
And then slowly, and with in greater numbers, we're now getting more of a representation of women. And even my most kind of, you know, macho masculine male friends, they have to concede that I can't tell you what the woman's name is, but this is a classic example, right? She's the Chelsea manager. She's blonde. I watched her commentating on a game. There was this amazing goal. It was Spain-Italy, and she talked about how the attacker separated the guys off the ball, took the defenders in different directions, just as they did in his other three games. The man with the ball then proceeded to accelerate to 19 miles an hour, and the defender backs off him, and he places this ball with his right foot, which is his favoured foot, into the corner of the net. And it just summed up exactly what happened. Anyway, later on, I was watching a match of the day, and this time I think it was Robbie Savage, and his contribution was, "Well, that was good, wasn't it?" And that was it. That was the difference. You kind of go, it's a no-brainer. But you just think all of the hurdles this woman has had to jump over, climb through, and go through, and get through, just to get on the same platform. And I think over the last 12 to 18 months, it's been fantastic. And it's the same. I do a lot of mental health and men's health stuff in construction. And over the last 5 years, the numbers of women coming into construction has changed the nature of construction. So much so that, whereas, well, we can't have girls can't be bricklayers, they can't carry bricks. You go, well, actually, it's too heavy for a girl, it's too heavy for a guy. And so now men will use adaptations and mechanical aids.
Yeah.
So, it just changes the culture. And I think that's why we need more of that in comedy. That's where that thing of having more inclusion, and that's where it comes into it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you notice how the green rooms have changed. They're less adversarial. They're less, they're more welcoming spaces, particularly, for example, if you're a comedian doing a 10-minute spot on a Friday night at the Comedy Store. That used to be the case, that you would turn up and no one would talk to you. Yeah. You would be excluded. You would have to find a little corner of the green room. In fact, often it got so awkward, you would have to leave the green room and go and stand with the audience and wait until, and then and whether you did well or you didn't do well, people would never acknowledge you. Well, now that is unacceptable behavior. When whoever is on the bill, everyone introduces themselves. Hi, I'm Jen. What's your name, mate? I hope you have a great show afterwards. Well done. Blah blah blah. Whatever. Hope to see you again. But that just never happened before, and I really am glad that that's changed, because it was awful.
So Veronica Cohen again is saying that she only wants humour. Yeah, the women of a certain age can honestly deliver. And Veronica, I think I appreciate you putting your comments in here, and I completely agree with it. I yesterday went to Tasha went on a weekend away with it was a hen kind of and 50th sort of weekend. 26 women of Essex went on this coach trip and to a hotel spa for the weekend, and there was a traffic jam and they need to go to the toilet. So they basically said to the driver, "Can you pull over?" He said no. So they just opened the door, got off, and went in the bushes. And there's like a herd, 26 of them in a herd, into the bushes, and then out of the bushes back on the coach. The driver was gobsmacked. But because once you're over 40, over 50, you have that confidence. You don't want to impress, but you can just be yourself.
Oh yeah, it's the best thing. I think my 40s is my best decade so far. I'm really enjoying it.
So just if you could just quickly just tell us about your book.
So I wrote. Thank you, John. What a brilliant seg. I wrote a book.
There you go. It's there. It's up in the corner. The other mother.
Look, I've got the paperback here. There we go.
I've got the hardback.
You've put up the hardback. That's also wonderful. It's called The Other Mother, and it's a comedy memoir. And basically, I wrote it because I am the other mother. My partner is the biological parent, and I am the non-biological parent. And so when my partner was pregnant, I had loads of insecurities about. I was like, who the hell am I? I'm not even related to my children. I mean, what if they turn up and they don't like me? So I was looking for books and looking for something that's somebody that might have the same experience as me, and I found zero, like nothing at all on the bookshelves. So so that was the impetus for writing it. And at first I started to write sort of like a blog for Standard Issue, which was Sarah Millican's website, which sadly no longer is around. And that got some really positive feedback and quite a bit of traction. And then I used that to help me create like a book proposal and pitched it to a literary agent. She liked it. And then she managed to get me a book deal. So but the book is funny. It's just a funny book. It is about the first 2 years, like of trying to get pregnant and in the first 2 years of my children's life. And it's just a funny memoir, and it's supposed to make you laugh. And there'll be loads of stuff, irrespective of whether you're a biological parent or a non-biological parent like me, or you've adopted, or you're a step parent. It's just funny stories. And I've got loads of mates who've read it, don't have kids, and who enjoyed it, you know.
Brilliant. Well, I will stick that on my page. And then just finally, if you could so what keeps you mentally strong? What's your secret? How do you not, because you've got twins, you're in a relationship where you're working, you're traveling. What keeps you straight? What keeps you sane?
Shall I tell you what's keeping me sane at the moment? I live by the sea. I live in Brighton, and the thing that has kept me sane, particularly during lockdown, has been swimming in the sea. And I swim. I did my first 12 months of just swimming 3 or 4 times a week in the sea. Doesn't matter if it's snowing, if it's freezing, if it's sunny, if it's hot. I've gone in. And there were days where during lockdown where it was quite bleak. My mental health wasn't great. And I found that swimming in cold water, I'm sure there's some sort of medical reason, and there's loads of research being done about it at the moment, because so many people were doing cold water swimming during lockdown. But it really was a reset button for me. So I sometimes I'd go down and I'd be in a really bad mood, or I'd be cold or tired or fed up or just quite low mentally, and just swimming in freezing cold water, it was just like a reset button. And then the rest of the day I'd be like, right, okay, this is a new dawn, this is a new day. I got Zoe Lyons into it, so she comes swimming with me.
Brilliant. If there was an accident, we could lose the cream of Britain's. The royal family don't travel on planes together for this reason. One of you gets bitten by a shark. Come on, girl. What are you doing? You're not thinking it through.
I've already been stung by a jellyfish 3 times. Oof. But yeah, I've been doing that, and I love it. And now I've become honestly addicted to it, and it's been life's like really has helped my mental health, and that's why I'll continue to do it.
Okay, well, we take that as your
my top tip.
Swim it in cold water. That's going to be your forever on. Jen, I could talk to you.
I don't mean to have a shower. I mean, just get in the sea.
Swimming, in the sea. But I thought, for those of us who are landlocked, but look, I could talk to you for hours, mate. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, John, it's such a pleasure. It's really nice to see you. Genuinely, I feel like every time I see you, even though I don't see you for like ages, when I see you, it's like I'm transported back to the last time I saw you.
There you go. Lovely. I have that. That's how Rohypnol works. You take care. Stay safe. Thank you ever so much, Jen Brister. That was Jen Brister. Absolutely fantastic comic and writer. Do have a look at the book if you get a chance. I believe that is essential reading, not just for biological, non-biological, but as a parent, any help you can get, any tips at all that's going to help you to parent, it's got to be a good thing. So Jen's tips there, swimming in the sea, in the cold water in the sea, fits in quite nicely actually with Danny Postil, who was talking about cold showers. I was like, what's that all about? Kane Brown's tip still tickles me. Be selfish, look after yourself. But again, that fitted in very much with what Rialina had to say about making some time for yourself. Just have a nothing day, just switch off and just do whatever. As usual, I want to thank our sponsors, WJ. It's been a great show having Jen on. I want you all to take care of yourselves, stay safe, and we shall see you next Monday night, 7 o'clock. Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. talking with comedians about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible. It's great to be part of the mensradiostation.com family, so do check us out on the website, on social media. We'll be back next Monday. You take care. Stay safe, everybody. And with that, it was over. Thank you very much, Rachel Ramsey, for your comment. Thank you, especially to Veronica Curran. We've not had you along before, but thanks for your comments. Do check out Jen's book. I will post it on my Facebook page. Just Google comedy in your town. Go out, support live comedy, and let's see if we can laugh our way into the roaring 20s and leave all our troubles of COVID and all the rest of it behind us. Have a great week, everybody. And next week, I've got an international act, Andre King from New Zealand. I'm really looking forward to that. In the meantime, do check out mensradiostation.com. They've got loads of fantastic shows, as have the womensradiostation.com as well. Take care. Stay safe.